All old motorcycles tell a story, because at one time they were somebody's pride and joy. This is the YZ 465G 1980 model. Now, the story of the YZ is well known, it's legendary. But I want to tell you the story of the bloke that I bought this bike off and show you his legacy. This bike came to me about 5 years ago from Gippsland, which is a very hilly region. Lots of valleys with very steep hills up to 70 degrees all around them. It's wet, and if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, think of Appalachia, because up there, all those valleys, there's little communities and people living a remote lifestyle. Well, the bloke I bought this bike off was one of them. He would have been in his late 40s and was dressed just like he'd come from an AC/DC concert in 1980. He had the hair to match as well. He was missing a finger on his left hand, and that finger came off when he crashed this bike and was chopped off by that handlebar there. Where this bloke lived was right in the middle of the woods. The steepest, most rugged terrain I've ever seen for a motorcycle. And this bloke was a full-on mad dirt bike rider. He wasn't famous, he didn't compete, he just got home from work every day and went for a ride. And this was the bike that he did that on for 20 years. And along the way, he's had a few mishaps with it. But he's kept it going for that whole time. And you can see what he's done to try and make this motorcycle more usable for him. Number one, it's got a disc brake front end on it. Now that's not standard on these bikes, but it's an improvement, and given the terrain it came from, I can see why he put it on. But number two, although this bike's been done up, have a look at the damage on it. Have a look at the exhaust pipe. I don't think there's an inch of it that hasn't got a ding or a dent somewhere. Now that probably does affect the performance of the bike slightly, but does it matter? No, I think it's part of this bike's history. It's telling us a story. I mean, how do you get this many dings? Right down to your muffler and the welds where it's been repaired. But the big giveaway is, have a look at the stand. Look how it's cocked left and right, and there's a great big weld where it's been repaired there. See how worn these foot pegs are. There's virtually no metal left on them. He's ridden the hell out of this bike. And right in here, just in there, you can see where the casings have exploded at one time, but he's managed to get them welded up and keep the bike on the road. He told me when I picked it up that this was a running bike. Well, we couldn't get it going when we picked it up, but it was complete, and the spare engine he said came with it turned out to be a box full of parts that he'd blown up off this bike. But anyway, it was handy and he was genuine, and I took the bike. He obviously was keen to get the money. He rang us 3 times on the way there to make sure we were still coming. So I hope that money got him what he needed on the day, and I'm pleased to have this bike. It's a ripping bike. I've ridden it for 2 or 3 years, and then I blew it up. I've just finished rebuilding it. But it gets to a point where these bikes start to get that rare that they need to be put away and they need to be looked after. This is a fully original running bike. Complete engine rebuild. There's some very interesting elements to this bike that tell its history. Another thing that's very noticeable is he's actually head-butted the crossbar here. It's bent. You know, there's so many things. The rims were cracked and broken, but I've had them welded and a very good job with the welds. Very hard to tell where the repair was done, but if you were going out competing in that, you'd replace that. But if you're just going to ride it like I was, why? It's part of the history of the bike. It tells a story. The bend here, sign of another encounter that he's had in the bush. So this bike really is something quite special. And I'm going to put it away. It's going through that door and it'll live inside from now on.